Hi everybody, welcome to Caketastic Cakes. It's Jen, and as you can see through this little quick skim here along, I decided to start messing with some wafer paper, and this is my first attempt, and I decided to share it with you. So take a look and you can see what I did. Alright, so I just got some wafer paper. I wanted to order it. I see a lot of cakes being made with it. It looks super cool, and I'm like, yeah, I could do that. So they arrived, and I decided after messing with it a little bit, which I just cut out and, removed from my footage because it was all garbage, that I will just show you a couple of the simple things that I did. And I kind of feel like if I could do it on my first time ever messing with this stuff, then you could probably do it too. As you can see, I started out by making big circles and little circles. I should have made the circles, I think, closer in size. I have them maybe two different ring sizes apart, and I just cut out a whole bunch, cut halfway up the circle on the big set and the small set, so that when you pinch them together, you overlap the bottoms where you cut. It will kind of scoop and bowl the paper, so now it's almost like a flower petal. It is supposed to be a flower petal. That's the idea here. And I also realized too that they have those stamps out there that you can just like stamp your paper, and it cuts perfect circles every time instead of me, standing at my counter cutting circles sloppily for 10 minutes. So, yes. Now I'm painting a little bit of water mixed with corn syrup onto the paper, and then I just overlap them, pinch them together, and they dried really, really quick. I noticed that the wafer paper is very brittle. If you fold it too roughly, if you handle it too roughly, you could break it, you could chip off the edges, that kind of thing. But it does seem like it has a lot of fun potential. I just have to get used to it, I guess. So yeah, I looked at a whole bunch of other people's tutorials and videos and how-tos and blogs even just to read about it. And this seemed like something that I could handle, and it didn't come out too shabby. I have, again, my big circles and my small ones. I put my my small ones, I just overlapped a little bit with my corn syrup mixture, pinch the petals together just for a second or two, and then it would stay. I did a set of just two of the small ones together, and then I'm doing another set of the four together, but they're not as close together. I have them spread out a little bit more. Now, I also realized, having done this, if I were to do it again, which I probably would, it is a nice effect, that you have to be careful how much you overlap your cut, your two sides of your cut, because that will make your curve tighter or looser, which means you have different angles to your petals as you're trying to glue them together with your little water corn syrup concoction. So something else to keep in mind. So here are my big petals. Again, the same thing, and I'm putting the folded parts into the center to try to hide it, just because that seemed to make the most sense to me. Again, just hold it for a second, and it makes it a nice little cup, and the smaller ones, as you can see, sit right inside. That's where I would have liked to have either smaller outer petals or larger inner petals, because I feel like the size difference was a little too big. So I had some extra petals, and I'm just kind of gluing them on the outside between the two inner petals, so they just kind of stagger around like that. Because why not? Again, lots of paper, just messing around. And yeah, and the stuff that I had cut out, I had tried to make a rose, and it was an abstract rose, shall we say, and it was after I like melted some of them, and I realized once you get your paper kind of damp, it can get very sticky and kind of mushes in on itself and everything else. So yeah, this is why this is where the footage is. So yes, there's my little flower. Just kind of press it down only for a second or two, and then it really does stick together. Now, I did learn that you can add a little ball of gum paste or fondant to the center of my flower, which is what I'm going to do. I'm adding some shimmer to it just for some color, because I felt like, why not? And I did learn that if you use food coloring to color your flowers or your wafer paper, you need to be a little bit careful, because if there's sugar in it, it can make your wafer paper very sticky. I did not know that, so good to know. I don't know, maybe you guys already know this too, but that's what I learned. So yeah, I have there some vodka mixed with a little bit of a gel food coloring that does not have sugar in it, and some gold shimmer that I was messing around with the rose that I can't show you because it kind of came out obscene. And so I just took some on my big paintbrush, as you see, and I'm just going over the edge of the petals with the side of the paintbrush as much as I can. I could have switched to a smaller paintbrush, which, if this was a serious attempt and not just me kind of trying to figure out what's what, I would have done, so I didn't make mistakes and get the food coloring on the side of the petals, which I did. Right where they, yeah, like right there at the bottom in the center. You can kind of see a little spot. But anyway, yeah, it came out nice. It didn't really melt the edge. It did a little tiny bit, but not enough to, I think, affect it. And I don't know, it's pretty, nothing wrong with it there. I did realize you can pull the petals out a little bit to try to get in there easier, and that did make it turn out a little better in my opinion. But yeah, so what the heck, right? No harm, no foul. All right, more circles. I've seen this done in other people's cakes and it looks so pretty and so cool. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that because I can cut circles at this point. So I cut a bunch of circles out. I decided to color some of them again with my shimmer just because I was messing around to see what was going to happen. Now, this is not powdered food coloring. This is a shimmer, and it's not a very high quality shimmer either. So I noticed when I put it on the wafer paper, it went on kind of blotchy. I'm sure you can see it here in this footage that it's not nice and smoothly colored. It is kind of blotchy. I don't know if a better quality would be better. I don't know if a proper food coloring would be better, but this is what I'm working with, so here we go. I made a bunch of circles and folded them all in half, and a couple of them cracked, which was fine, not a big deal. A little bit of some vodka, or I'm sorry, this was not vodka, this was my water and corn syrup mixture, along the edge, and then as you saw, I just pinch together, and you'll feel them just kind of like mush right together. It kind of feels like when styrofoam melts or something like that. It just goes right together nicely, and it didn't like melt or anything per se, but it kind of melted a little bit, but it wasn't melted to the point where it dissolved is what I'm saying. And when you put them together just for a second or two, that's all you need to do, and they stick, and then they kind of fan out a little bit. So I took my 3 sections and I just pinched them together, because everything's just getting pinched together. And by doing that, I was able to get this very cool, half of a circle, half of a ball effect with the paper fan kind of look to it. I don't know what you call these. I'm going to call them half a fan. But it looked really pretty. I was like, okay, this isn't too bad. Now, when I put it aside to let it dry, because once they dry, they do become very stiff again. I did put little pieces of paper towel in between each of the little fans in order to make them space properly, and that worked really well. So something to consider. And if you guys have had experience with wafer paper and have any tips, I would love to hear them because this is a lot of fun. Like, I'm really enjoying wafer paper right now. So again, it's just the same thing. I was trying it with white paper this time. My fingers still had a lot of that peachy kind of shimmer to them, stuck on them from handling the other ones. And I left it that way on purpose because I figured once I put them all together, when they open up, you're going to see a little hint of color in the center. And it actually worked. So it looked kind of pretty, I thought. Instead of just being pure white, it had just a hint of color. And again, same thing as before. I just took the pieces, pinched them together in pairs, then pinched my pairs together to make my wad. The first semicircle that I made had 6 circles folded in half put into it. This one I think had like 8 or 9 because I didn't actually count how many circles I cut. I just cut a bunch. So yeah, that one's a little bit thicker, a little fuller looking, and you can kind of see the peach in the center, which I think is kind of pretty. So yeah, here's the attempts I'm willing to share of my first exposure to wafer paper. So I hope you found this video a little bit enjoyable anyway. Please like and subscribe because it really does help me out. Check out my other videos. I got a lot of other ones that are actually probably more helpful. So please take a look, and as always, thank you for watching Caketastic Cakes.